Take two. Kyle here from All Media Reviews, here to do a review. I did a review, I wasn't happy with it, of the Darren King, aka DK the Drummer, debut album that came out last week, Lockers Volume 1. But before I get into that, there's something else that he sent out an email list. It came out last Friday, it was Bandcamp Friday. I picked that up. And he just sent an email yesterday announcing that he has another album that's coming out on May 31st that's under his own name. So DK the Drummer is different, a different persona. I'm not sure. It's eight songs, I guess. And that's coming out on May 31st, so in a few weeks. So anyway, so I guess I'll get into it. Darren King, after he left Mute Math, it was like 2017, the last Mute Math album, Play Dead. He didn't even tour for that, but he was going to do some, worked with his wife, Stacy King Dupree, or Dupree King rather, who's also known as Sucre, put out an album last year, kind of like a comeback, but he's on that. He was involved in that, and he's worked with the music that was under Sucre, because his wife had been in the band Isley, but I don't think Isley's around anymore. So, but he had released some songs, like even an EP, really ever since he left Mute Math, I think. And they were a little different. They weren't exactly like Mute Math. And this new album, I was wrong when I originally filmed this yesterday. It wasn't 27, it was like 17 different vocals, singers, rappers, guest on this thing. And, you know, because I didn't, like, keep track of his, like, solo stuff religiously. I didn't, like, listen to it. I usually tend to, like, listen to singles, unless it's just so damn good, or just I'm, like, pining for it. If it was, you know, Fiacre or something like that, I would be, but... So he put out some songs, and some of the songs that he put out did end up on this, and I'm wondering actually some of the songs that are still on his Spotify account under DK the Drummer might end up on that. I don't know, on that album coming out on May 31st. But A Dagger, Echo, Divided, and To the Death in Key. So like there were 5 songs already that had been released, but I have not done like a side-by-side comparisons to the ones that are actually on Lockers Volume 1 to see if there's a difference. Like Divided, for example, though, I remember really liking, and I still remember why. I mean, I remember now, I liked it when it came out, I listened to it a lot, and I shared it, I know, and but yeah, that's a great track. And, I mean, this album, I mean, he's a drummer, but he's also a songwriter, composer, per se. I'm reminded a little bit of like Dino Campanella from Dredge, who plays the piano and has done soundtrack for some stuff. They did some of the Waterborne soundtrack, and he did that one soundtrack for that film with Ben Savage, actually, it's like a car salesman movie. Anyway, he's a drummer who also composes and plays keyboards and stuff, and piano. Darren kind of, and even though his drum style is not the same as Dino Campanella, there's a similar aesthetic. There's a lot of drummers that play piano for whatever reason. There's a rhythm to, I don't know. But anyway, I've noticed in the compositions on these songs on Lockers Volume 1, the piano part and the synth parts play a pretty big role. So, I mean, the styles explored in this album, while they are a little bit like Mute Math, it's also a mixture of like jazz, R&B, rap, and hip-hop, funk, and there's some like progressive stuff in here, progressive or art rock too. And I mean, it's a really cool sort of variety of different styles explored, but the songs are still there. I didn't really expect, like, I didn't expect to be blown away by this album, but I knew I'd liked some of the songs he'd released. I was like hopeful, and I can definitely say, even though I've listened to it only like 3 or 4 times so far, it's probably better than I expected. This album could be in my top 10 of the year easily, I think. I'm really liking it. Despite the fact I'm not typically that into rap and hip-hop, I like a little bit. I've been listening to some of it going through the Albums of the Year series with 88, 89, '90 with like the Beastie Boys and I think it was '87 with the Beastie Boys, Public Enemy, NWA, even Nana Cherry a little bit. So maybe my I've liked a little bit of rap here and there. My interest in rap and some more like what you call it urban music or whatever is rekindled by listening to someone who I really love as a musician from a different kind of area. Although Mute Math has always had a bit of a funk and I mean that New Orleans jazz element. So I mean it's not that foreign, but I mean it's certainly different than Mute Math in a lot of ways. So just going down the track list, there's all these guests. Like I said, there's 17, I guess, different vocalists and rappers on here. Some of them have more than one. Knowing that I saw the listing beforehand, there were a few. PJ Morton, who he played with Maroon 5, but he has his own music. My wife's a fan of. Jamie Lydell, who's like a neo-soul artist. And, of course, Sucre. So those are the three names I know. Sucre, his wife, is on one of the songs, on the last song. The tracks, just more specific, To the Death, PJ Morton's on, and Jamie Lydell's on Sincerity, which are both really good songs. So, I don't know, I can just go over the track list. A Dagger's the first song, featuring Daisha McBride and Wynn Starks. The rapping really works. There's a great groove to it. The synths totally work. It's very feel-good, like a feel-good kind of track. The second track, Echo, featuring Da Vinci and Swamberger. It's got a very cool, funky element and quirky. There's like these staccato synths with rapping over them. And there is some auto-tune, and I'm not typically that into auto-tune, but some exceptions, like Daft Punk or... there's a few exceptions I can handle auto-tune as long as it's not overused. And like Chromeo. It reminded me of Chromeo. A lot of synths and everything like that. There's layers of like a crowd on it. The gutty. Oh yeah, there's like a that like King's X has done that, and there's the bands that have that kind of grunting gutty, almost like a tennis player. Yeah, or like beatbox or something like that. But playful synthesizers, and the ending kind of reminds me a little bit of the energy in the end of Daft Punk. Could You Be My Echo? So the third track is Divided, and might be my favorite song on the record. It's very progressive. It features Alejandro Aranda. Very jazzy. It almost reminds me of like Dirty Loops, who I've recently gotten a little more into. Or you could say Snarky Puppy or Reina Kindo even to some degree. Because it's very like happy and jazzy, but it's very technical and busy. Yeah, this is probably the proggiest of the prog on this album, although there's some others that kind of go into that territory as well. This track came out in 2021, so I might put that down. There's even like a King Crimson or Floyd element to some of it. That's kind of the way that King Crimson, like the early Crimson, they use like little piano refrains and stuff. St. Vincent did that a little bit. I love the way that Darren put those in here. I'm a sucker for sort of less is more piano, layers, I guess you could say. And then there's this bed of synths that are super dynamic toward the end. Yeah, it's like happy jazz. It's dreamy. Yeah, the dynamics on this track make it really work. Anyway, so the fourth track is Get That Work, featuring Devin Gilfillian. Very consistent, the groove on it, and the synths get a little angular. This is the track I probably wasn't into initially, but I'm starting to get more into. The second half, or the last couple of minutes, features some horn parts that make it really good, like the jazz element, like I mentioned. The singer or whatever, the vocals have that phrase, get that work, get that work. And also the line, we don't even know what country we came from. I mean, this is really rapping. So, I'd say like at least a third, maybe half of these tracks are rap is featured. Some of them have rap and singing. But anyway, so the fifth track, To the Death, features PJ Morton. Starts off with a very, very cool fat synths and some subtle piano with female vocals. So I don't know who the vocal... I didn't write that down and get who the female vocalist is, but it's PJ Morton and them, and her. But the second half starts to build in a really cool way, and some horns get added, the drums are mixed high, and it has a very, like, Morton's really only featured in the harmonies. He's not as noticeable like compared to like Jamie Lydell on the song he's on, but it has a very cool jazzy feel. So all right, the sixth track is Keys, which features Daisha McBride and Olivia Jones. I believe Daisha is the rapper and Olivia does some vocals, and it's kind of weird. Daisha, I think it's Daisha. I'm just assuming it is. The rapping at the first couple of minutes. There's an accent almost, which sounds almost like a mixture of like Rosie Perez and Mike Tyson, but it still works. There's good flow to her rapping, and the tempo picks up, and he had some fat synths, and it gets really uplifting, this track. Olivia Jones, I think, is doing, I'm assuming the other singer does this like screaming, moaning kind of. It's not loud, but it adds a little bit more to the feel and the tone of the song. But then you hear the rapping coming on Daisha, I'm assuming it is, over Darren's drums, and she's saying, I just don't talk the talk, I mean it, among many other lines. But there's a cinematic element to this track. I pretty much, when I heard it, I was enjoying this song from the get-go. Yeah, I mean, a lot of tracks on this have a cinematic sort of atmospheric element. So number 7, this is the Jamie Lydell track, Sincerity. Great track. He's kind of Stevie Wonder-ish, kind of Raphael Sadiq-ish, that kind of neo-soul, very kind of impassioned vocal style. Works really well over Darren's drums. A lot of the drum parts are very upfront, like in the mix, and I can understand, because this is a solo record. I mean, he did that on Mute Math. He was a featured player on Mute Math, of course, but I think it's even more emphasized on this, because it's DK, the drummer, of course. But that line, so sincere, because it's called Sincere, he repeats it many times. It has a nice groove from the bass guitar at one point, and then over Jamie's, and drums over Jamie's vocals. Yeah, and then there's a little bit of a chromeo element, because I like chromeo. My wife loves chromeo, and that kind of happy, busy, kind of groovy, kind of synth stuff, soulful synths, if you want to call it that. So anyway, that's Sincerity from track number 7. Number 8, Whatever Weather, featuring R.LUM period R, like R-lum R. I don't know how that's said. This is probably in my top 3 songs on the record. Great atmosphere, big synths. The vocals start the song. It's got a really nice melody, which sounds like it's on kind of a jazzy guitar. But he has a great voice, whoever this is, R-lum R or whatever. The piano arrangements again are really featured on this song. Very jazzy, and also has an R&B feel to it. The snare drum work is great from Darren in the middle. And the fat synths with the vocals complement the fat synths, or vice versa. Yeah, and on the chorus is probably the best part of this track. The piano plus the vocals. Yeah, with some strings at one point in the second half. Oh man, and the strings in the outro especially. That's one of my favorite parts of this whole record, is the way he arranged the string parts. So I don't know if it was actually string players or he did it on a computer, but it works. So the ninth track, All My Love, featuring Emily Sage, which she sings some in Portuguese and some in English. Oh, this is a fantastic vocal performance. Dreamy as hell, that the vocal performance from Emily Sage. The tempo is slow the first couple of minutes, but then it picks up, and it gets all, the synths get kind of, I don't call them heavy, but very atmospheric. It's like a Massive Attack, or kind of reminds me of Stateless, actually. Like a wall of sound thing. Yeah. And then eventually it kind of stops. So it's kind of dynamic. You have the fast part, and then it slows down a bit, the tempo, which sounds like, and then adds like some upright bass, and the line, you can have all my love, or lovey. Love. I don't know if I meant to say, I added a bunch of E's, but nothing, no connection to the Led Zeppelin song All My Love. But yeah, All My Love's another terrific song on this record. So the last two songs, like the second to last song is Guns Made of Plastics, which features Jabee or JB, Jabee. bright synths over rapping with the line. It starts out with "Tomorrow ain't promised," like spinning like "Tomorrow ain't promised," and then I mean I couldn't catch it all. Like spinning like vinyl. I mean, yeah, so the first half of it is bright and happy with some synths and some rapping, but then eventually they add some sax, and the sax is really the featured part of this track. And he's rapping over some of the sax for quite a while on this track. Lines like every song is an open casket. So lyrically it's kind of sad in a way, I guess you could say. It's talking about a casket. But the sax parts, oh my god, it's like Coltrane, or you name the sax player. It's Charlie Parker. The sax goes solo for a while, it builds, and then we get some female vocals in the background. Again, I don't know if that was Jabi or someone else. You get the female vocals, and then you get rapping, and then it crescendos with more sax and drums. I mean, it's really like a lead sax. The sax isn't just featured; it's really a lead instrument on this track. And then it calms down, and it has like some kind of Star Wars-y or Nintendo-ish synths that kind of end somehow. I don't know where that came from, but anyway, great track. Guns made of plastic. He's talking about maybe that's maybe he's I didn't think about that. That's a Nintendo reference. The Duck Hunt gun. Guns made of plastic. Maybe play guns, I suppose. I don't know that little synth texture they use at the end there. So the final track, Better For. That might be, I mean, I love Divided, I love Whatever Weather, but I think this might be my favorite now after listening to this album only a couple times, only 4 times or whatever. This features two vocals, Saint Pressure and Sucre, Sucre being, Darren's wife. Totally cinematic track. There's some auto-tune at the beginning. It kind of, I was thinking of, actually reminds me a little bit, or would be appeal to people that actually did like what Mute Math did with Vitals. I think it was Vitals, and then the Changes like remix album. I'm kind of wondering, to some degree, that's kind of what ended up, one reason why Mute Math ended up kind of ending, because maybe Darren wanted to do more stuff with synths, and that was kind of the criticism of the fan base. They didn't, Mute Math fans weren't as into the heavy synths. They wanted more rock, which is weird because Paul, of course, Paul Meany was also the keyboard player, but no, this is a terrific track. So the synth part around 2:15 is just fantastic. It's just very tasteful, very what's the word, rich or whatever. That's not the word I'm looking for, but it builds. It has this energy that starts coming out. And there's this echoing, better for you, that in the vocal lines from, I believe it's from Sucre, from Stacy. And then it leads to the best part of the track, and maybe the best part of the record, the string arrangement again. Much like Whatever Weather, the string arrangement completely steals the show here. It's totally gorgeous. And then she has the line, "Who's gonna clean it? Who's gonna clean it, boy?" I'm not sure if it said boy or not, who's gonna clean it, but the outro is just sublime. I mean, it's so rich. Kind of reminded me of like the River Empires. Those string arrangements on the River Empires are so rich and fulfilling and big, and just so you can't help but just be in awe how the brilliance, the way it sounds, the harmonics, the way when string sections that are composed that sound so clear and clean, and just the tone that comes from them, I'm a sucker for. I love string arrangements. I like some classical music, but yeah, Saint Pressure's vocals. Yeah, the auto-tune is like, it's fine, I guess. I don't mind it. So anyway, that's kind of the full kind of gamut of this record, having only heard it about 4 times. But I mean, I don't know what the solo record's going to be like coming out in a few weeks. It might be more stripped down. Maybe it's more rock. I have no idea. But this is a big thumbs up, and like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up in my top 10 records, maybe even higher. Depends on how much I'm going to listen to it, but I mean, is every Mute Math fan going to love it? No, I saw some comments on Reddit that didn't. Shout out to a gentleman on Reddit who was asking about it, who found I was talking about reviewing it on this channel and everything, but I think some of them will, and I think just you know, I mean, not everyone likes songs with rap or hip hop or auto tune, but if you don't mind that, you can sort of just like, you know, handle that, and then you can recognize the other parts of the music that's so great. I don't know. I mean, would I classify it as art rock? Certainly, art rock, R&B, jazz, hip hop. It's a blending of styles. It's a really great blend, and it's very uplifting. Even though some of the lyrics are a little dark, a lot of rap and hip hop to me, and you know, urban music or whatever, doesn't give me that sort of uplifting feeling. Doesn't, you know, this is more optimistic sounding, and it's energy. It's like, you know, a record I'd put on. It's like 43 minutes, and yeah, I'm really digging it. And you know, I'll have to follow up with his solo record, I suppose, depending on, you know, my take on it. But you know, if you're on the mailing list, but yeah, big thumbs up to DK the Drummer's Lockers Volume 1. And I may have to actually hear it. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like the way I felt with the Stateless record, the Vanavi record a few years ago, which I never fully have like followed up with some of the singers. The extra singers that you hear on this that are really good. Part of it is the composition and who's writing them, but part of it is the singer's performance and how good of a singer or a rapper they are. You know, rap with rock. This isn't nu metal. This isn't rap rock in that sense, but it's sort of almost rock and R&B with rap and hip hop. That it's sort of the right blend, the right kind of formula, the right amount. So anyway, if you heard it, what do you think of it? I'll give it I'll link it in the description. But thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.